Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. First and foremost, apologies for the lack of uploads in the last week. There's been a few things that have kind of just gone on in my personal life that needs to be dealt with. But I'm hoping now to get back to a little bit more consistent videos in the next little bit. And saying that, thank you guys for the love and support on the recent videos. It has been very, very much appreciated, and I hope to continue to see that going forward. It is very much appreciated. With that being said, there's been a little bit of basketball I've still been able to watch the last little weeks. And there's some stuff that I've just noticed that I kind of want to discuss. And first off, starting with yesterday's games, what happened in the Wizards and the Nets game? And I don't mean it I think it's a rhetorical question, but like 149 to 146 in regulation. And Washington score, what was it, 10 points in the last 8 seconds or something like that? Absolutely insane. Brooklyn had no perimeter defense last night, and Kyrie said after the game how he couldn't defend at all last night. They really struggled to defend, as obviously you would tell based on the scoreline. For Washington, it really was a two-man effort. Rich Wagner was able to get 17 points for them off the bench as well, and Smith 13. And Bertans had a rough shooting night, but they got nearly 80 points from their backcourt with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's been doing his thing this year, man. I swear the most dependable things that I've been able to count on this season so far in the NBA is Bradley Beal having a nuts offensive night and Bradley Beal looking like he's about to cry or crying on the bench at the end of the game when they've lost in the fourth quarter. I hope Beal can get a trade, man. I am a big fan of Bradley Beal. I liked him when he was a bit of a smaller, less known 3-and-D guy when he was first starting his career, and obviously now he's a bona fide star. And I really hope we can see him on a contending team because he's such a competitor. You can see that he cares about winning a lot. And obviously he values loyalty as well, or he wouldn't have re-signed with the Wizards. But I really hope we can see him on a winning team, man. It would be tough to see the prime of his career waste away on a team that is not a winning team, because there's so much talent in him as a player. With that being said, he had a typical very good game last night with 37 points, and for the first time this season, arguably, he got the help that he should and would expect to get from his fellow All-Star point guard in Russell Westbrook, who shot 16 of 28 from the field last night on 41 points, while getting his typical 10 rebounds and 8 assists, 2 steals. Much, much better game last night. He's getting much more aggressive, getting to the rim. And when he shoots the ball well like he did last night, then he's very, very tough to defend. And when that backcourt is both shooting well, then they have a lot better odds of winning. But without Westbrook hitting shots and being aggressive, it's tough. It really is. Davis Bertans didn't play that well last night either, and that kind of hurts them, but it was good enough for them on the night. As far as Brooklyn goes, their offense was very good. They shot 57% from the field and 53% from deep, and they lost. And they lost. When do you hear that? You never hear that said. 57% from the field, 53% from deep, and a loss. Those words just don't go together. And part of it was defense, and part of it was the turnover battle. Brooklyn had 17 turnovers last night to Washington's 7. Now, when you're giving the extra team another 10 possessions, that hurts a lot, because it's not like Washington were stroking away from deep last night. Now, Beal and Westbrook played well, but as a team, they shot 31% from deep. So they weren't shooting the ball at an outrageous rate to be putting up 149 points. So that hurt. That really hurt. And same thing for free throws. Like, Washington shot 78% from the free throw line on only 32 attempts. It wasn't like they were living at the free throw line or shooting a ridiculous rate from deep. So, again, it's only one game, but this is concerning signs from Brooklyn. They've been a bottom half of the league defense so far this season, and we know they can score. Durant had 37 last night. Harris had 30. Kyrie had 26. We know their offense is good. We know Harden, Durant, Kyrie is going to do their thing. Harris is a good option as well. Jeff Green played well for them as well last night, putting up 23 points. But can they figure it out defensively, and can they get the chemistry to work? Can they get that second unit balance? These are the questions this team has to answer. Can they figure it out? Maybe. I don't question that they'll get the chemistry and the offensive stuff figured out, although that stuff is already very good, but polished to the level that they would want. I don't have any doubts that they'll get that to where they want it to. But this defense is really, really worrying to me. And the center position is also worrying to me. DeAndre Jordan only played 19 minutes again last night. Partly that would have been due to the fact that Washington don't have a great starting center, but that center position is worrying to me. I don't think DeAndre Jordan is quite at the level they want him to be. He's a big drop down from Jared Allen, in my opinion, and there's a lot of issues with this Brooklyn team. As far as the defensive end goes, we might see massive improvement in a couple of months. It might not be an issue, but as of right now, giving up 149 points to the Wizards, one of the worst teams in the league, that's a tough loss to take. Another action, Anthony Edwards had a good game last night, beating the Cavs. And the Raptors beat the Magic last night. They just sent the double on Vucevic, and Vucevic is the only guy on that team who's dynamic offensively anymore, specifically with Markelle Fultz being injured. I hope he can come back healthy and well next season. And shout out to Pascal Siakam for having another good 30-point performance. 76ers got a big win over the Pacers without Embiid. Simmons taking a little bit more aggression, finally, with Embiid out of the lineup. Still only 12 shots. You would like more, but 21 points from Joel Embiid last night is much better for him in a night, especially where Joel Embiid is out of the lineup. We need to see more aggression from Ben Simmons. But the way it seems so far this season is that Ben Simmons is the number 3 option on this team, even though he was the All-NBA player last year. It very much seems that Tobias Harris is the number 2 option on this team, especially with his improvement in play this season under Doc Rivers, which I'm not surprised about, because Tobias Harris's best basketball has been played under Doc Rivers when he was with the Los Angeles Clippers before he got dealt to the 76ers. And he's playing well again this season. He had 27 points again last night, and that was good enough for him. They were able to play good enough defense on the Pacers. Neither Sabonis nor Brogdon completely got hot, and that was enough for them to be able to hold on and get a big win without what right now has to be one of the leading MVP candidates. But talking about MVP candidates, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets stopped Utah's massive winning streak last night. 11 wins, 12 wins, something like that. Regardless, Utah have been on a very good run. Utah have been shooting the ball extremely well. They did again last night. They shot 43% from 3. They shot 0.1% better from the field than they did from 3. That's how well they're shooting the ball from 3. And if they can continue that, is that likely? Probably not. But if they do, this team's going to be dangerous. And Bojan Bogdanovic is just now starting to heat up the last couple of games. Prior to then, he hadn't been playing that great on offense yet. He's put up two 20-plus point games. Last night, however, shooting struggles from Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Jordan Clarkson, the 3 main guards, is essentially what hurt them in the end. Bojan tried to help Royce O'Neal, did well on his shot, so he didn't shoot much as per normal. But that's the unfortunate downfall of Utah last night, along with the fact that Denver shot 64% from deep. They were firing last night, and they were hitting their shots. Nikola Jokic had a very elite to Jokic standards games with 47 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists, while shooting a ridiculous 17 of 26 from the field, 4 of 4 from deep. But I have no doubts that this Utah team is still very good. As I've said in the previous video, I think this is a team that might finally be able to get over that hump of getting bounced in the first round this year. I don't know if they will, but I think this team is a little bit better. That Jordan Clarkson 6th man is very nice. Joe Ingles is also coming off the bench. Niang, Derek Favors is very good for them to have off the bench as well. And Donovan Mitchell's playing at a slightly elevated level. Mike Conley's a little bit better than he was last season. And Rudy Gobert and Royce O'Neal having on defense is very good. And then Bojan Bogdanovic, as I mentioned, if he can start continuing to score like he has in the last couple of games, that is going to be very, very valuable. But this Denver team's had a much better last couple of weeks than how they started the season, and they're making their way back up the Western Conference to where they normally would expect that they are. But that leaves the Clippers now at 16-5, Jazz at 15-5, Lakers at 16-6, 15-6, and then the Nuggets 2.5 games behind at 12-8. Let's talk about a surprise, though. I know they've played a few less games than everyone because of some cancellations due to the virus. The Grizzlies are 8-6, 5th in the conference. I don't think many people would have expected that. I certainly didn't expect it. This is a team that I thought might push for a playing game. That's about it. Shout out to the Grizzlies, man. And that's with John Morant out for a couple of weeks. Jaren Jackson Jr. hasn't been back yet. And they've had a few other injuries as well. But Tyus Jones, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, JV Valanciunas, the guys they're doing their job, man. They're working hard. They're playing good hustle basketball. And fair play to them. They've been doing very well. Moving on to the other game last night. I want to shout out Emmanuel quickly, man. Man's been balling out, and man needs to start. Period. Man needs to start. Elfrid Payton should not be starting for this team anymore. He just shouldn't. Elfrid Payton is like, we know what Elfrid Payton is, right? He's good defensively. He's a meh playmaker and an under average scorer. He's not a starter in this league. There's a reason the only team that he is starting for is the Knicks, and not a team with competent point guards. I mean, that was the thing going into this season with the Knicks. With this season for the Knicks, we didn't know who their starting point guard was going to be, other than the fact that it's Tom Thibodeau, so he was probably going to go with the veteran. But between Elfrid Payton, Dennis Smith Jr., Franklin Ntilikina, we didn't know. And now, as if I believe this morning, Dennis Smith Jr. is being sent down to the G League. This is someone who was a marquee package return in that trade for Kristaps Porzingis, and he's now gotten himself sent down to the G League. It's tough, man. It's tough. I know that injury didn't help him, but this is someone who had some really, really promising time with the Mavericks, and now is kind of seeing his career fade away, which you don't really like to see. And as far as Franklin Ntilikina goes, he's essentially a worse Elfrid Payton. He's good defensively and even more useless on offense as far as scoring goes and on an offense. That's essentially what it comes down to. Yeah, there's no other way to put it. That's just the way it breaks down to. But Clippers getting a win they should have gotten last night over the New York Knicks. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Reggie Jackson all doing the thing. This Reggie Jackson getting more minutes thing has been quite interesting. He's been playing well for them. He's been playing well. He's been producing fairly well on offense. His defense is always decent. And if he can do that and be a bit more of a playmaker and facilitator for them, then hey, that's a positive, right? And Nick Batum obviously not playing last night with a groin injury, but Nick Batum, shout out to him as well, man. He was someone who kind of just got looked down upon and just kind of got ruled out and forgotten about or remembered for the wrong reasons after his first couple of years in Charlotte because of that bad contract. And, I mean, that contract was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. How he managed to get that much money, full kudos to his agent, because he did not deserve that type of money at all. I know that was partly due to the raising cap in whatever summer that was, 2017, I believe. But $30 million a year for a guy who was averaging like 13, 5-5, 12, 5-5. Like, come on, man. That's like 20 million absolute tops if you're good defensively, which Batum was and is. But now the team's getting paid $2 million. Everyone's willing to give him some respect. He's producing decently on offense, and his wing defense has been very good for this team. And fair play to him. He's played very well and given a bit of a revival into his career. He's fit in very well to the starting lineup in LA. So full credit to Nick Batum. He's done very well so far this season. Another note, shout out to Dame calling game against the Bulls the other night. The Bulls have struggled to close games this year, and Dame managed to pull off another one against them. On another note, I believe in the last week the Bucks defense is 26th in the league in and defensive rating. So the Bucks need to get back to playing some good defense. I know they can. I know they will. But they need to do it sooner rather than later. Now I understand that the Bucks also probably aren't going to care about the regular season as much this year because they're figuring out that they're fine in the regular season, right? They just need to be able to get to the playoffs and be healthy and be rested. But even on nights where they don't care as much, they should be beating the Charlotte Hornets, and they should be better than the 26th defense in the league because this team is just filled with elite defenders. From Jrue Holiday, to Chris Middleton, to Giannis Antetokounmpo, to Brook Lopez, to Torrey Craig, who for some reason hasn't been playing, which I find really weird. I find the Torrey Craig not playing thing really weird. I think he offers a lot to this team defensively. I know he's not great on offense, but I think he offers a lot to this team, especially with how some of the guys on the bench have been struggling so far this season. DJ Augustine has not been anywhere near as good as they would have liked. Bryn Forbes doesn't really offer anything on defense, so when he's not hitting his shots, he isn't much of a plus for them. Get Torrey Craig some minutes. I don't know if Coach Bud's going to do that, but get Torrey Craig some minutes. I think he needs to be in that team. With that being said, I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to cover over the last week or so of basketball. I don't think there's anything else too much to cover. Raptors are starting to get back into the playoff mix. Miami, they got Butler back now. I'll wait a couple of weeks to see if they can start playing better, but haven't been great yet. Hopefully they can improve. Got a win in Jimmy Butler's first game back, so hopefully they can build off of that. But yeah, with that being said, we are over a fourth into the season now. And, yeah, I must say I've been happy with the season so far. It's been good. Obviously, the virus has thrown in a few postponements and stuff. On one last closing note, the Dallas Mavericks need to remember how to win games. They've lost 5 in a row now. They've gone from 8-7 to 8-12 and currently sit 13th in the Eastern Conference. Sure, they're only 3 games back at 5th, but 13th in the Eastern Conference for the Dallas Mavericks, a team that many people thought would have done well, a team that many people had Luka Doncic being the MVP. They have Kristaps Porzingis now, and honestly, since Kristaps has been back, that's when they've been losing. And I know for a stretch of time, since Porzingis has been back, and before then, they were without Dorian Finney-Smith, they were without Tim Hardaway, they were without Maxi Kleber. But nonetheless, this team still needs to be doing better. They've now lost 5 games in a row. They have won 2 of their last 10. 2 of their last 10. That is on par with Orlando, the worst last 10 games in the league. So Dallas need to get it together. Miami need to get it together. I hope Pelicans can start playing a little bit better as well. Shout out to the Thunder for having a good start to the season. 7-4 on the road as well. That OKC team is going to be nuts in a few seasons. Nonetheless, that is going to be all for me today. If you guys did enjoy, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.